Hi, my name is Matt O'Malia, and I am co-founder of TimberHP. TimberHP is a startup, and we're going to be manufacturing wood fiber insulation in Maine. We are going to be the first domestic producer of wood fiber insulation, which has a 30-year track record in Europe. I am a co-founder with Josh Henry, who is a PhD chemist, architect, chemist, unlikely entrepreneurs, perhaps, but we came together to solve an important problem, and that is the sustainability of insulation in buildings, introducing a renewable, recyclable, cost-competitive, scalable insulation that is made from the waste stream of the lumber industry. My background is I'm an architect, and I started in 2008 with my first company focused on building passive house buildings, which propose they use 80 to 90% less operational energy or operational carbon. And when looking at the graph, you can see why I was focused on that. Buildings, first of all, account for almost 40% of total carbon in the atmosphere, more than transportation or industry, and 2/3 of that is operational carbon. So when I launched my first company, that was my sole focus. But the more we built passive houses and the more passive houses scaled and high performance buildings have been successful in the marketplace as the first step to a net zero building, the more I realized the impact of the insulation products we're using to achieve those goals. And as you can imagine, a passive house, the really only differentiator between that and standard construction is about 3 times the amount of insulation and an extra piece of glass in the window. So as we looked at the materials that we're using to build the building, not to mention just that in general, the materials we're using to build all our buildings, not just the insulation, we realized that there's some opportunities that needed to be addressed. Everyone knows that concrete has an incredibly high carbon footprint. It's an incredibly versatile, important material, and it's difficult to reduce or remove concrete from construction. Full stop. It'll always be part of how we build, and there's going to be ways to reduce the impact of the carbon on that material. But the one that doesn't get much attention is insulation. First of all, let's admit, insulation is not a sexy material. It's buried in the walls. Nobody thinks about it. Nobody sees it. But the installers know about it because traditionally insulation has a reputation of being itchy and scratchy to begin with. But we all know we see the benefits of insulation in the energy that it saves, but also the comfort that it results in our houses. So when we look at insulation, it's actually a really dumb material. It has one job to do: keep the warm in and the cold out. So it can be made from a variety of materials, but the existing mass market materials all have high carbon footprints. They're non-renewable, non-recyclable, in many cases have real sort of construction building science issues with how they trap water vapor or moisture in building assemblies, which can cause rot and decay and other health problems. The existing mass market insulations all have high carbon footprints, with the exception of cellulose, which is 10% of the market, but capped based on the feedstock limitations. We're just not reading the number of newspapers we used to. So when you look at an opportunity for a scalable alternative, wood fiber insulation comes to mind because it's made from a plentiful source. Our natural resources in wood are significant, and it comes to the job site carbon negative because the carbon that's stored in the tree processed into wood has a carbon negative footprint, which comes at an extreme contrast to the other existing insulations in the market. It's used in above grade wood applications, walls, ceilings, and exterior continuous insulation, which has a distinct advantage in that it's very much like Gore-Tex. It's windproof, waterproof, but it's vapor permeable. It lets that moisture escape the envelope. It can be used in a variety of applications as well as acoustically. And from a cost standpoint, given the low cost of residuals and energy in the United States, it comes at cost competitive when we're going to introduce it into the marketplace. The insulation has a long track record, successfully demonstrating its performance in Europe for over 25 years. And there's a variety of manufacturers that are well established, and the market's growing significantly right now. And when you think of insulation, wood fiber insulation domestically, the opportunity is we have tremendous reserves. We have tremendous residuals available to us from our forests because the byproduct of the lumber industry is this the leftover pieces from taking a round log and creating a square board. Those are residuals. They used to go to the paper mill. In Maine alone, we've lost more than 7 paper mills in recent years, and so we have a tremendous amount of residuals available. And that story repeats itself across the United States as we look at the forest baskets relative to the population centers providing insulation across the U.S. We are launching our first line of production. We started actually just 2 months ago in a repurposed mill in Madison, Maine. We'll be hiring 125 full-time employees. And our first products will be coming online with the first quarter, or actually in a few months, with the timber fill product, followed by the bat product, which is a cavity insulation this summer, and the board product this fall. Thank you all for joining this talk.